вами розглянемо також ще одну дуже цікаву тему.
Now we are going to examine another very interesting topic.
Технологія, яка фігурує зараз.
This is, in fact, a modern technology that currently appears in my legal case. As you can see on the screen,
Перепрограмовуються прилади,
these are devices that communicate through the air. They concentrate specifically on a target, a victim,
на жертву, на ціль.
as part of an attack.
Я фіксую ці всі випадки і додаю до судової
I
справи.
record all of these incidents and include them in my court filings.
І це вже ми говоримо не просто про
And this is not just ordinary surveillance. This is not simply recording conversations.
фіксування розмови чи перепрограмування приладу.
It is not merely reprogramming a device.
Встановлення якихось вірусів.
It is not about installing a virus on a phone or other equipment.
А це ж в першу чергу
This goes far beyond that.
те, що ми бачимо.
What we are seeing is the evolution of what some refer to as the Moscow signal and the Havana syndrome.
Тобто, по великому рахунку, Bluetooth та Wi-Fi – це вже є інфозвукові.
Broadly speaking, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi signals themselves can become informational acoustic waves, but in a different spectrum.
І зараз ми більш детально розберемо вже це питання.
Now, we will examine this issue in more detail.
Ми розберемо це, і ви зрозумієте, що це дуже серйозно.
We will break it down, step by step, so that you can understand why this is very serious.
Суд відкрив
You will
цю
also
справу.
understand why the court opened this case.
Чому мої докази виявились дуже
Why my evidence was considered so significant by clerks and judges in California.
суддів у Каліфорнії, які відкрили це судове
Why they initiated the legal proceedings and assigned me a case number. Please pay close attention.
International risks of BLE platforms with hidden debug functions. Global dependence of smartphones and IoT on Chinese radio modules. Forensic, legally safe, structured explanation suitable for BAT27.x research sections. General model. In complex schemes involving factory or debug modes of IoT devices, one of the most dangerous forensic patterns is the use of ordinary people as paid mobile nodes. This is not a conspiracy or complicity, but rather that people often perform small tasks without awareness of the overall operational purpose. How this appears in practice: the network may pay a person a bonus for being in a specific location, ask them to pass by a certain individual at a specific time, use families with children as innocent transporters of infected devices, ask a person to sit nearby, spend time, play with a child, make a video or test an application, create behavioral camouflage such as loud conversations, toys, and artificial social presence. The person might believe this is a promotional task, a micro job, application testing, payment for a walk, a social experiment. In reality, their device functions as a micro-network node, scanning BLE, transmitting telemetry, and activating modules of other devices. Why it occurs in public spaces. These schemes are most commonly detected in libraries, community centres, courthouses, public buildings, public transportation, children's zones, youth spaces. Reason: high concentration of sensors, IoT modules, and people. Overlay with personal observations. Observations include hundreds of devices entering synchronous BLE or debug patterns, people with children acting as if performing tasks, repeated roles, pass by, sit nearby, speak loudly, children or teenagers holding phones or toys in directed position. This aligns with the model behavioral camouflage for mobile vectors, behavioral masking of mobile carriers. Legal model in the United States. 5.1. If a person was unaware, they are not guilty. In the United States, a clear principle applies. A person who did not know about the criminal purpose bears no liability. Unaware participants are victims or transporters, not accomplices. 5.2. Organisers face extreme penalties. If it is detected that organisers paid people to perform motion or behavioural tasks, infected their devices, moved them to courthouses, libraries or government buildings, collected or transmitted data via their phones, then they may be charged under CFAA hacking, up to 10 to 20 years. Wire fraud, up to 20 years. Conspiracy, up to 5 years per count. Money laundering, up to 20 years. Interference with government facilities, 10 to 25 years. Domestic terrorism, health threat, potentially life imprisonment, totaling over 100 years of imprisonment for organisers of large schemes. Legally safe phrase for declarations: I do not assert the intent of specific individuals. However, I recorded a recurring behavioural pattern which forensic literature describes as mobile nodes. In some episodes, people, including those with children or teenagers, performed similar actions, passing by, sitting nearby for several minutes, behaving as if completing a task or receiving a micro bonus. BLE and IoT technical data showed synchronous patterns of hundreds of devices in factory or debug mode exactly during these episodes. This may correspond to a criminal network model that uses ordinary people as unconscious carriers of infected devices. High-profile botnet, malware, and cybercrime cases in the United States. Chronology, named defendants, legal charges, and federal sentences. Forensic, legally referenced overview combining chronological enforcement history with detailed US federal case descriptions. Chronology of major botnet and malware prosecutions. Verified timeline illustrating how US courts prosecute large-scale cybercrime and botnet infrastructures. Chronological timeline, 2005-2006, Jensen, James and Chater, California, USA, one of the first botnet operators prosecuted in US history, controlled hundreds of thousands of infected computers using the RxBot malware, sold access for spam distribution and distributed denial of service attacks. Charges: Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, 18 U.S.C. Paragraph 1030. Sentence: 57 months in federal prison, asset forfeiture, restitution. 2007 FBI Operation Bot Roast, coordinated federal crackdown on early botnet herders. Multiple defendants charged for spam, malware distribution, and unauthorized computer access. Notable defendants: Jensen, James and Chater, Robert Soloway, Robert Bentley. Legal significance: established federal precedent for botnet-related prosecutions. 2020 and 2022, COVID-19 fraud botnets. Large botnet proxy services used compromised consumer devices to submit fraudulent unemployment and relief claims across multiple US states. Estimated damages: billions of US dollars in public funds. May 2024, Yunhee Wang, 911 S5 botnet, arrested in Singapore. Operator of one of the largest criminal botnets ever identified, compromising over 19 million IP addresses worldwide. Criminal use: identity theft, financial fraud, child exploitation, pandemic relief fraud. Charges: computer fraud, conspiracy, wire fraud. Potential sentence: multiple decades in US federal prison. September 2024, Raptor Train. Botnet disruption. Court-authorized FBI and Department of Justice operation dismantled a botnet of over 200,000 infected Internet of Things devices. Attribution: linked to foreign advanced persistent threat infrastructure. Outcome: infrastructure neutralized, victims notified. Hashdraft 2025, Ethan Foltz, rapper bot DDoS network. Arrested for operating a massive distributed denial of service for hire botnet, responsible for hundreds of thousands of attacks globally. Charges: aiding and abetting computer intrusions. Potential sentence: up to 10 years imprisonment. Detailed federal case descriptions, expanded descriptions of the most significant United States botnet and malware prosecutions with named defendants, charges, and outcomes. Jensen, James and Chater. Early botnet conviction, 2006. Jensen, James and Chater, a then 20-year-old from Downey, California, was one of the first individuals prosecuted in United States federal court for controlling a large network of hijacked computers known as a botnet. Ancheta used malware, specifically the RxBot worm, to infect and control hundreds of thousands of computers. He rented access to these machines for spam campaigns and distributed denial of service attacks. Charges and sentence: 4 felony counts under 18 U.S.C. 1030. Sentenced to 57 months in prison, forfeiture of assets and restitution. The 911S5 botnet, largest criminal proxy network 2024. Yunhee Wang operated the 911S5 botnet, compromising more than 19 million internet protocol addresses worldwide, including over 613,000 in the United States. The infrastructure was sold as a residential proxy service and used for identity theft, financial fraud, child exploitation, and pandemic relief scams. Estimated impact, approximately 5.9 billion United States dollars in fraudulent claims. Charges, computer fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy. Potential sentence spans multiple decades. 911 S5 indictment, law enforcement findings. According to the United States Department of Justice, the botnet was used for financial fraud, harassment, identity theft, bomb threats, and concealment of criminal identities. This case illustrates how proxy botnets monetize compromised consumer devices at global scale. Raptor train botnet disruption, 2024. More than 200,000 infected Internet of Things devices were neutralized in a court-authorized Federal Bureau of Investigation and Department of Justice operation. The botnet was linked to advanced persistent threat activity and foreign infrastructure. Operation Bot Roast, 2007. Early Federal Bureau of Investigation crackdown targeting multiple bot herders, including Robert Soloway and Robert Bentley. This operation established foundational legal precedent for botnet prosecutions in the United States. Rapper Bot Distributed Denial of Service Network, 2025. Ethan Foltz was arrested for operating a massive distributed denial of service for hire botnet used in over 370,000 attacks worldwide. Charge: aiding and abetting computer intrusions. Potential sentence: up to 10 years imprisonment. Final analytical conclusion. This unified chronology and case analysis demonstrates a consistent United States federal enforcement pattern. Individuals who design, operate, or monetize botnets and malware infrastructures face severe criminal liability. At the same time, these cases show that ordinary device owners are treated as victims, while organizers bear full legal responsibility.
So the date is August 15th, 2:20 p.m. In front of us, a mother with 2 children passed directly by me. And now let us immediately look at the BLE scanner readings. Nearby, we can see that there are devices with 0 intervals, exactly at a distance of 11 meters, where this mother with the children passed. We can also see that a perimeter is broadcasting with a 0 interval at a distance of approximately 63 meters. Also with a 0 interval. And now, this family, after passing by me, decided to sit down next to me nearby and play with the child. Is this a coincidence or the execution of a command? And now let us look at the BLE scanner and see whether the distance indicators changed after they sat down next to me and whether 0 intervals are present. Now we see that the device near me is located exactly at the distance where the mother with the children is sitting, almost 2 meters away. And we see one device that is connectable with 0 intervals. The second device is non-connectable, which indicates that either there is a firmware malfunction or this is intentional reprogramming of the board for surveillance, where the device does not connect but broadcasts covertly. The advertising broadcast parameters appear to be within normal limits. However, we can see that this is not a standard civilian mode. It appears to be a factory mode. We also see a second device in the perimeter at a distance of 22 meters, also broadcasting with 0 intervals as part of the perimeter. And it is also non-connectable, consistent with a factory mode configuration. Next, we see devices in the grid at a distance of 14 meters from us, and also have 0 intervals. In addition, there is a perimeter at 100 meters with a device that is also broadcasting with 0 intervals. And at approximately a distance of 22 meters, a man quietly sat down under a tree not far from me. Is this random, or is it the same controlling pattern as in the previous scan, specifically in the 22-meter range? This is how I noticed the tactic. Mothers with a child may be allowed to approach me closely, but they always use a controlling person, from whom prohibited intervals and device parameters are also emitted, possibly a relative, to create a stimulus and maintain surveillance directed at me. Also, in this image, you can see people around me at a bus stop. At first glance, everything appears random and ordinary. People are talking to each other. Someone is speaking loudly on the phone. Someone is playing with children. It looks like a normal day, an everyday public scene. However, when we turn to the BLE scanner, the picture changes completely. The scanner shows that all devices around me are non-connectable and broadcasting with zero intervals, or operating with parameters that do not correspond to standard civilian reference frequencies. These characteristics are consistent not with normal consumer devices, but with reflashed hardware operating as part of a single coordinated network. Visually, nothing stands out. No one behaves suspiciously. No one draws attention. Everything looks calm and routine. But the scanner presents a cold and technical picture, a silent structure of signals, synchronized behavior, and abnormal transmission patterns. What looks like an ordinary group of people at a bus stop is, from a forensic perspective, something entirely different. And that contrast is what makes this scene disturbing. And now we are inside the bus. People are taking their seats. Everything looks ordinary. Some people sit next to me. Some move to the back of the bus. Some stand nearby. Some sit in the front. Mothers with children, elderly people, teenagers, homeless individuals, people with disabilities. It looks like a completely normal public situation. However, the scanner shows something different. The scanner indicates the presence of unauthorized devices, either broadcasting with errors. Although what kind of error is this when it is not one device or two, but many devices showing similar behavior? Or operating as non-connectable, or broadcasting with zero intervals, or with intervals that are not characteristic of a standard civilian network. This scan is especially important because it shows the presence of two devices with almost identical broadcasting parameters, 2003 milliseconds and 2009 milliseconds. This is the most interesting part. This is a clear indication of factory mode operation, where two or more devices synchronously switch to nearly identical broadcasting parameters. This is not standard behavior for civilian devices. It already resembles server-like behavior. I will explain this in detail in the following chapters of this investigation. This will be the key to the entire investigation, and it will appear repeatedly later as a recurring pattern. These parameters appear consistent across multiple devices, as if they are part of a single coordinated network of reflashed hardware, possibly operating in factory or test modes. Visually, nothing seems unusual. From the outside, this is just a bus full of ordinary people going about their day. But when this behavior appears systematically, simultaneously, and in large numbers, it no longer looks like a coincidence. What do you think? Now we are in a cafe. August 15th, 2025, 3:07 p.m. The situation appears completely standard. A father with a child is ordering food. A homeless individual is present nearby. From the outside, nothing seems unusual. This looks like an ordinary public space with ordinary people. However, during this time, the homeless individual displayed noticeably aggressive behavior toward me, watching me closely, gesturing, and pointing. Shortly afterward, an Asian woman approached him and gave him something, possibly money or additional food. What this interaction represents is open to interpretation. Now, let us look at the BLE scanner. The scanner shows a similar pattern to previous locations. Devices are present both inside the building and outside, operating as non-connectable and broadcasting with zero intervals. These signals are detected directly within the cafe environment and in the surrounding perimeter. At this stage, no conclusions are being drawn about the roles or intentions of the individuals present. The people visible here, including the father with the child and the homeless individual, may be entirely incidental. The scene itself appears ordinary. The data from the scanner is presented as it is. Viewers can examine the signal patterns and form their own conclusion. Now we are inside a police station. Mission San Fernando, Los Angeles. When I entered, this was the scene in front of me. A mother is covering her face and hugging her son, visibly demonstrating care and affection. An elderly man is standing in line. These may be completely random people in a normal public setting. Let us look at the BLE scanner. Is it possible that inside a Los Angeles police station, we would see the same patterns observed earlier? The scanner shows devices operating as non-connectable and broadcasting with zero intervals at multiple distances, within 2 meters, 6 meters, 14 meters, and up to 30 meters. Both internal and external perimeters are present. This raises open questions. Were these devices already inside the building before my arrival? Were certain actors present in advance, simply performing ordinary roles? Or is this coincidental? Visually, everything appears normal. Nothing unusual stands out. However, the scanner data indicates behavior that does not conform to standard civilian IoT broadcasting norms. The data is presented as recorded. The interpretation is left to you, the subscribers of my channel and the viewers of this video. As can be seen in these scans, the situation repeats itself. A large number of devices are present both within a 2-meter range and across the external perimeter. A malfunction could explain 1 or 2 devices, but not nearly all devices detected around me simultaneously. The consistency of these readings across multiple distances makes a random error unlikely. Visually, everything appears normal. Nothing suggests anything unusual. However, the scanner data tells a different story. We see non-connectable devices and devices broadcasting with zero intervals, behavior that does not conform to standard civilian IoT norms and FCC guidelines, detected inside a police station. What this means is open to interpretation. Is this normal behavior for devices inside a police facility, or does it raise questions? That decision is left to you. Share your thoughts in the comments under this video. Now it is July 23rd, 2025, 2:26 p.m. We are inside the courthouse on First Street. We see mothers with strollers and children. It looks like a normal situation, mothers walking with their children through the courthouse building, almost like a public park. Right behind her, another mother with a stroller and children passes by me. Is this just a coincidence or something more? Let us check the BLE scanner. Are there violations? Could it be that even here, inside the courthouse, the center of democracy, we are seeing breaches of FCC broadcasting regulations? The scanner reveals the signals, the patterns, the anomalies. What appears visually as an ordinary scene, mothers walking with their children, now takes on a different dimension when viewed through the lens of the BLE scanner. Every distance, every device, every interval tells a story that is invisible to the naked eye. And yet, here it is, recorded in cold, technical detail. The question remains, coincidence or part of a larger coordinated pattern? We also see the presence of non-connectable devices and devices broadcasting with zero intervals, operating in ways that do not conform to FCC radio broadcasting norms inside the courthouse building. This is occurring in an environment where children and mothers with strollers are present. According to the scanner, these IoT devices with non-standard FCC parameters are detected at distances of 3, 5, 7, 10, and 20 meters from me. Whether these signals originate from personal devices carried by parents and caregivers or from other sources within the building is not determined here. The data is presented as recorded. The interpretation is left to you. Based on the repeated scans, it appears that this network is not limited to a single location or a single floor. The signal grid seems to operate both horizontally, maintaining a perimeter on the first floor, and vertically, extending upward and penetrating multiple floors of the courthouse building. Across nearly every BLE scan, we observe devices operating in both connectable and non-connectable modes, broadcasting with zero intervals or near zero advertising intervals. From a technical perspective, zero advertising intervals are not consistent with standard civilian BLE operation. In normal consumer devices, advertising intervals are deliberately spaced and randomized within defined ranges to reduce interference, conserve power, and comply with spectrum sharing rules. Continuous or near-continuous advertising, effectively zero intervals, is outside typical civilian behavior and is considered abnormal. Such behavior may indicate devices operating outside standard consumer firmware, factory or test modes not intended for public deployment, modified or reflashed firmware, or coordinated behavior across multiple devices. In regulated radio environments, including those governed by FCC rules, devices are required to operate in a manner that avoids harmful interference and adheres to established technical standards. Persistent zero-interval broadcasting undermines these principles and may constitute a violation of radio transmission norms, particularly when observed at scale and in sensitive locations. What makes this especially concerning is the location. These patterns are observed inside a courthouse, a high-security federal environment, where strict controls over radio emissions, interference, and electronic systems are expected. The presence of numerous devices simultaneously exhibiting non-standard broadcast behavior across multiple distances and potentially multiple floors raises serious technical and security questions. If such behavior were coordinated rather than incidental, it would suggest an organized deployment of radio-emitting devices within or around a protected federal facility. In the context of past U.S. cases involving botnets, coordinated IoT misuse, and unauthorized wireless networks, large numbers of synchronized or anomalous devices have been treated as indicators of hostile or illicit network activity. Historically, botnet investigations in the United States have demonstrated that coordination across many devices is a defining characteristic. Uniform or near-uniform timing parameters are a red flag, and such networks are often designed to operate invisibly within ordinary environments. Technically, this kind of behavior is incompatible with the concept of independent, random civilian devices. From a signal analysis standpoint, it more closely resembles managed or centrally influenced systems. Whether this represents misconfiguration, negligence, unauthorized testing, or something more serious is not determined here. However, if such a network were intentionally deployed inside a courthouse, it would represent a significant breach of trust, security norms, and regulatory expectations. Systems that undermine transparency, lawful regulation, and the integrity of public institutions ultimately operate against the freedoms they are meant to protect. In extreme interpretations, coordinated covert wireless activity inside federal buildings has historically been associated not with civilian use, but with counterintelligence or diversionary operations. The scans themselves do not accuse anyone. They document signal behavior. The technical anomalies are recorded. The risks are outlined. The conclusions are left to the reader. Now we are in the same courthouse building, inside the case registration hall, where clerks and staff are processing filings. We see a line of people waiting. At first glance, a completely normal queue, nothing unusual. However, let us analyze the scanner readings. Could it be that, even here, we will detect the same anomalies as before? Devices operating as non-connectable, broadcasting with zero intervals, or with parameters inconsistent with standard civilian BLE operation. The visual scene appears ordinary. People are waiting patiently, going about routine business. Nothing visually suggests any irregularity. Yet the BLE scanner may reveal a different reality. As we can see in these scans, nearly all detected devices are broadcasting with zero intervals. And here we encounter the exact pattern I mentioned earlier. We observe two devices synchronously exhibiting almost identical advertising parameters, one at 1,154 milliseconds and another at 1,211 milliseconds. This is an anomalous pattern. From a technical standpoint, this behavior resembles structured packet transmission rather than independent civilian device operation. It is closer to coordinated timing behavior seen in server-driven systems, epoch-based scheduling, or peer-to-peer distribution models where multiple nodes align their transmission windows. What makes this especially abnormal is that two ostensibly independent devices converge onto nearly the same advertising line. In normal civilian BLE environments, devices operate asynchronously, with jitter and randomness intentionally introduced to avoid collisions and interference. Near synchronous alignment like this is statistically unlikely without shared control logic, shared configuration, or external coordination. From my technical perspective, this does not look like random noise, user error, or isolated misconfiguration. It indicates deterministic behavior. Whether that determinism comes from factory test modes, synchronized firmware profiles, controlled environments, or centralized timing influence cannot be concluded here. But the pattern itself is real and repeatable. The key point is this: independent consumer devices do not naturally behave this way at scale. The scans document the behavior. The anomaly is measurable. The implications are technical, not speculative. Signals in devices that do not conform to expected civilian norms, potentially operating in ways that indicate coordination, proximity tracking, or anomalous network behavior. Every distance, every interval, every device detected contributes to the technical picture, a layer invisible to the naked eye, but documented in precise, measurable detail. At this stage, the anomalies are recorded. The interpretation, whether coincidence, misconfiguration, or coordinated behavior, is left to the viewer. Across all scans, we consistently observe zero advertising intervals. This pattern appears on every scan without exception. From a signal analysis perspective, it gives the impression of an active, expanding network, where the number of anomalous devices increases over time rather than remaining static. This leads to a technical hypothesis. Hypothesis: progressive device capture and reprogramming within the effective field of a coordinated actor network. In this model, the network does not rely solely on a fixed number of pre-deployed devices. Instead, it expands dynamically by inducing nearby devices to switch into abnormal operating states, including non-connectable modes and zero-interval broadcasting, effectively behaving like a propagation process. From a systems perspective, this resembles a viral spread model rather than a static deployment. General technical model. In complex schemes involving factory or debug modes of IoT devices, one of the most dangerous forensic patterns is the use of ordinary people as mobile network nodes. This does not require intent, awareness, or complicity. Individuals may unknowingly carry devices that scan the BLE environment, relay telemetry, synchronize timing parameters, and trigger mode changes in nearby devices through undocumented or poorly secured mechanisms. How this may appear in practice. The network may provide a small incentive or bonus for being present in a specific location, request proximity to a target individual at a specific time, use families with children as statistically low-risk carriers of active devices, ask someone to sit nearby, remain present, play with a child, make a call, or test an application. Generate behavioral camouflage, loud conversations, toys, movement, and social noise. To the participant, this may appear as a promotional task, a micro job, application testing, payment for a walk, or a harmless social experiment. Technically, however, the carried device may function as a micro-network node, participating in coordinated BLE activity. Why the device count increases. If the observed zero-interval pattern were limited to 1 or 2 devices, random malfunction could be considered. But when nearly all surrounding devices exhibit similar abnormal timing behavior, the probability of coincidence drops sharply. Mathematically, independent civilian devices are expected to show randomized advertising intervals, timing jitter, asynchronous behavior. What we observe instead is convergence towards similar interval values, synchronization between independent devices, loss of randomness at scale. This is consistent with a propagation model, where devices entering the effective field of the network are induced into abnormal broadcast states, increasing the total number of anomalous nodes over time. Why the presence of children is technically relevant. This hypothesis does not assign intent to parents or children. From a systems engineering perspective, families with children provide prolonged proximity, low suspicion, dense device clustering, repeated close-range exposure. In network terms, they function as high-efficiency carriers, not actors. Risk context. If such a propagation mechanism operates inside a courthouse or other federal facility, the severity is not social or emotional. It is technical and systemic. A self-expanding, coordinated wireless network operating through civilian devices inside a protected building would represent a breakdown of radio frequency trust boundaries, a failure of expected civilian device behavior, and a serious security concern regardless of intent. The scans do not prove motive. They document behavior. The hypothesis explains why the number of anomalous devices grows, why zero intervals dominate, and why synchronization appears repeatedly. The conclusion is not asserted. The model is presented. The data speaks. We are still inside the courthouse on First Street. The time is 2:38 p.m., July 23rd, 2025. Only 2 minutes have passed since 2:36. Please pay attention to the density of children and mothers with strollers. They continue moving through the courthouse as if it were a public park. Visually, nothing appears alarming. Everything looks calm and ordinary. However, when we look at the BLE scanner, the situation becomes highly concerning. Signals that do not conform to FCC norms are detected in close proximity to these mothers and children. The anomalous transmissions appear clustered around them. It creates the impression that someone may be using this presence as cover. Within this range, a large number of devices were detected in a very short time window. What you see here is only a small portion of the scans. There are many more. Even within this limited dataset, we can clearly observe violations. A large number of zero advertising intervals detected both near me within 10 meters and across wider distances, 20, 50, even up to 100 meters. The scanner consistently records these anomalies. What makes this especially troubling is the presence of children at the apparent center of this signal activity. From a technical and regulatory standpoint, FCC limits were established not only for spectrum efficiency and power management, but also to reduce unnecessary exposure and interference in public environments. When abnormal transmission patterns appear systematically, especially around children, it raises serious questions. Visually, this looks like an ordinary day in a public building. Technically, the scanner shows something very different. The data is recorded. The anomalies are measurable. The interpretation is left to the viewer. July 24th, 2025, 12:40 p.m. I am inside the Double Bargain Store, located at 11914 Foothill Boulevard, Sylmar, California. Please pay attention to the large number of children around me. Visually, the scene is very vivid and dynamic. Children repeatedly approach me, remain nearby for a short period of time, and then run back to their parents. From the outside, this may appear completely ordinary. The key question, whether this behavior is intentional or coincidental, is left to you, my subscribers and viewers. Let us look at the BLE scanner. The scanner shows several highly concerning indicators: non-connectable devices, zero advertising intervals, and a high density and volume of devices operating with parameters that do not conform to FCC norms. Most notably, the scans clearly show multiple devices operating with nearly identical millisecond intervals. We observe values such as 2003 milliseconds, 1992 milliseconds, and 2006 milliseconds. In this case, 3 devices are synchronized to almost the same advertising timing. A 4th device appears at 4025 milliseconds. This level of synchronization across multiple independent devices is anomalous. It suggests coordinated timing behavior rather than random civilian operation. From a technical standpoint, this resembles centralized or tightly managed coordination rather than spontaneous device activity. Later, I will present video segments where synchronization across multiple devices is even more clearly visible, and we will analyze the possible technical mechanisms in detail. In this specific example, I am introducing a hypothesis that children may be used as proximity carriers, not intentionally, but functionally, acting as mobile elements within a dense signal environment. This hypothesis is based solely on scan patterns, timing synchronization, and device behavior, not on assumptions about intent or awareness. This topic will be examined further in the next chapters of this investigation. The scans are recorded, the patterns are measurable. The interpretation is yours. As we can see within a short time window, starting at 12:40, then 12:42 and 12:47, several sequential events occur. First, a small boy stands near me. Then a girl in red pants walks past me. After that, we see another boy. Then we observe multiple children positioned near me at the same time. At the same moment, we analyze the BLE scans. The scans show that in close proximity, there are IoT devices operating as non-connectable, broadcasting with zero advertising intervals. In addition, we observe devices that are synchronized with each other, exhibiting very similar advertising intervals. These devices appear to switch their broadcasting parameters in near synchrony, as if operating within a shared time window. From a technical perspective, this behavior resembles coordinated transmission, where multiple nodes align their activity to exchange or relay information within a defined temporal frame. This pattern is not characteristic of independent civilian devices operating randomly. Next, we observe another child, a boy approximately 4 years old, at 1:04. Immediately after that, a stroller with another child approaches. At a distance of approximately 2 meters, we detect zero advertising intervals. Even though the device is connectable, it is already broadcasting in a mode that deviates from standard norms. We also observe a wider perimeter of non-connectable devices at distances of 20, 60, and 80 meters. At 1:04 again, we see children with parents nearby. Overall, within a very short period of time, roughly 10 minutes, the store becomes densely populated with children. At the same time, the signal grid becomes significantly denser, with widespread anomalous broadcasting behavior. According to the Bluetooth core specification, specifically Volume 6, Part B, Section 4.4.2, Advertising Interval, standard civilian BLE devices operate with advertising intervals starting at approximately 20 milliseconds and higher, up to 10.24 seconds. In addition, the specification requires intentional randomization and jitter, including a pseudo-random delay to prevent synchronization and reduce interference. Therefore, persistent zero or near-zero advertising intervals fall outside normal civilian BLE behavior. This is not a power-saving mode, and it is not typical consumer operation. Furthermore, the presence of devices operating in a non-connectable mode is itself notable. The vast majority of civilian IoT devices, smartphones, smartwatches, headphones, laptops, fitness trackers, are designed to be connectable by default. Sustained non-connectable operation may indicate restricted modes, test or factory configurations, or modified firmware. What we observe here is a combination of zero or near-zero advertising intervals, loss of randomization, synchronized timing across multiple devices, and non-connectable behavior at scale. From a technical standpoint, this pattern is not consistent with random civilian device behavior. The repeated proximity of children during these observations raises difficult questions. Are children being used as incidental cover? As a dense clustering mechanism? As a form of behavioral camouflage for abnormal wireless activity? Or is this simply coincidence? The scans alone cannot determine intent. However, when abnormal signal behavior intensifies precisely as device density increases, and when that density is repeatedly associated with the presence of children and families, it becomes a legitimate technical question. What is the purpose of such a network? Is it concealment of illegal wireless activity? A mobile shield? A provocation mechanism? Or something else entirely? The data is recorded. The norms are documented. The deviations are measurable. The interpretation is left to you. Please share your thoughts in the comments under this video. Next, we move to a library, July 24th, 2025. View Terrace Branch Library, located at 12002 Osborne Street, View Terrace, California. We observe children nearby. Given that this library has a dedicated children's area, this in itself is not unusual and does not raise questions. Visually, everything appears appropriate for the location. However, when we analyze the BLE scanner, we observe radiation patterns and the same signal characteristics that were recorded earlier in other locations. Whether these are random visitors or specific actors is not determined here. What matters is the signal behavior. At close range, we detect devices at distances of approximately 1.4 meters, 3 meters, 10 meters, 20 meters, and beyond. The same anomalies are present: non-connectable devices, zero advertising intervals, and abnormal broadcast behavior. When we review different scans, we again observe synchronization across multiple devices. Advertising intervals cluster around similar values, for example, 2001 milliseconds, 2007 milliseconds, and similar ranges. These devices appear aligned in timing, reproducing the same pattern previously documented elsewhere. The key point is repetition. The same signal structures, the same timing convergence, and the same loss of randomization appear here in the library, just as they did in stores, public buildings, and government facilities. From a technical perspective, this location is especially sensitive. Libraries, particularly those with children's areas, are environments where strict adherence to civilian wireless norms is expected. Standards and regulations exist not only for efficient spectrum use, but also to limit unnecessary exposure and interference, especially around children. Yet the scanner shows the presence of a network exhibiting BLE behavior that does not conform to standard specifications. Such deviations, if verified, would fall under regulatory scrutiny and could be subject to enforcement actions by the FCC depending on transmission characteristics and compliance status. The scans do not assign intent. They document behavior. What is visible to the eye appears calm and ordinary. What is visible in the signal data is consistent, repeatable, and anomalous. Once again, the same pattern emerges, in a place where it should not. The interpretation is left to the viewer. Now we move to the Olive View Hills near the medical center. The environment here is sparsely populated, with very few people around. At a distance of approximately 20 meters, we observe individuals passing nearby. At the same time, the BLE scans register devices operating in non-connectable mode and broadcasting with zero advertising intervals. This is a significant technical observation, given the low population density and the absence of typical urban radio noise. At a distance of approximately 70 meters, another device is detected, also operating with zero intervals. This forms a wider perimeter pattern rather than an isolated signal. As I continue moving and approach the individuals ahead, the scanner shows a corresponding change in distance readings. A non-connectable device is detected with an advertising interval of approximately 6,005 milliseconds. Which later shifts to approximately 4,848 milliseconds. Such transitions are notable because they indicate deliberate timing changes rather than static behavior. Continuing further, two other individuals approach from the opposite direction. Once again, the scanner detects devices exhibiting similar characteristics, non-connectable operation, and zero or abnormal advertising intervals. We then descend toward the Olive View Medical Center. Near the facility, we observe a woman wearing medical attire, possibly a staff member. In this location as well, the BLE scans record the same signal patterns previously observed. All of these observations occur within a single time window, November 9th, 2025, between 9:10 and 9:27 a.m. From a technical standpoint, what stands out is not the presence of people, but the consistency of signal behavior across different environments, hills, walking paths, and the vicinity of a medical facility. The repetition of non-connectable devices, zero or abnormal advertising intervals, and synchronized timing changes is difficult to attribute solely to random background noise, especially in low-density areas. The scans document signal characteristics and proximity changes. They do not establish intent, coordination, or purpose. Why these patterns appear repeatedly, why they correlate with proximity changes, and what mechanisms could produce such behavior are open technical questions. In environments like mountainous terrain, where civilian wireless density is minimal, such anomalies are harder to dismiss as routine urban interference. The data is recorded. The signal behavior is measurable. The interpretation is left to the viewer. Here is another day, October 27th, 2025, 12:08 p.m. In the mountains, a single person is walking toward me. At the same time, the BLE scanner detects only one device in the surrounding area, at a distance of approximately 100 meters. That device is broadcasting with a zero advertising interval. In this environment, there are no crowds, no dense civilian infrastructure, and minimal background wireless activity. The presence of a single device operating with a zero interval stands out clearly against this low noise setting. Why is this device broadcasting with a zero interval? Why does this pattern repeatedly appear around me across different days and locations? This remains an open technical question. The scan records the signal behavior. The timing and distance are documented. No conclusions are asserted. The interpretation is left open. October 13th, 2025. In the mountains, a teenager on a small motorbike is visually observed. There are no other people nearby. The environment is open terrain with low background wireless noise. When the BLE scanner is activated, the device associated with this individual is detected even after the teenager has already moved approximately 80 meters away from me. The device is broadcasting with a zero advertising interval. The device name recorded by the scanner is sbhg.relay11.mu. Please note this identifier. The same device will be recorded again on a different day and at a different time when I later pass through this same area. This segment documents visual observation of a single individual. Distance increased to approximately 80 meters. BLE device detected at that distance. Zero advertising interval recorded. Device identifier logged for longitudinal comparison. No conclusions are asserted. The observation is documented for correlation across time and locations. Now we are inside the Olive View Medical Center. The date is October 13th, 2025. Even within this medical facility, the BLE scanner detects signal patterns consistent with those previously observed. Devices in close proximity, within approximately 2 to 10 meters, are broadcasting with zero advertising intervals and are non-connectable. These observations replicate the same anomalous patterns recorded in other locations. Synchronized advertising intervals, non-connectable operation, repeated measurable deviations from standard civilian BLE behavior. From a technical perspective, this shows that the same signal patterns are present even in a medical environment, where civilian devices would normally operate within standard BLE specifications. Such deviations, repeated zero-interval broadcasts, and non-connectable modes could fall under FCC regulatory review if verified, as they do not conform to expected BLE operational norms. The scans document the timing, distance, and device behavior. No conclusions about intent or purpose are drawn. The patterns are measurable and reproducible. The observation highlights a repeated technical anomaly in multiple environments, including sensitive facilities. Here is another illustrative example. We are now located in the Olive View area. The recording dates to October 2025. Within the immediate vicinity, the BLE scanner detects devices broadcasting with zero advertising intervals within an approximate radius of 30 meters, which already deviates from expected civilian behavior. Beyond this inner range, at distances of approximately 70 to 80 meters, additional devices are detected. These signals appear spatially separated yet persistent, forming what can be described as a second outer perimeter. From a purely technical perspective, this creates a two-layer spatial pattern: an inner zone with dense signal presence, and an outer zone where fewer but persistent devices remain detectable. We have now reached the second perimeter. Within approximately 3 meters of my position, the BLE scanner detects a device operating with zero advertising intervals and in non-connectable mode. Please note the device previously recorded on October 13th, a teenager on a small motorbike, with the identifier mtr.sbhg.relay1.mu. This same device has now been detected again, this time at an approximate distance of 56 meters. It appears that the device passed by earlier than the current observation window, but the timing is notable. Simultaneously, the scanner records zero-interval and non-connectable devices associated with two distinct groups of people nearby. These repeated signal characteristics are consistent with anomalies previously documented: non-connectable operation and zero advertising intervals, deviating from standard BLE behavior. While the presence of the same device across multiple observations may be coincidental, the technical data shows that multiple devices exhibit similar anomalous behavior within this environment. The focus here is on measurable advertising intervals, device identifiers, spatial and temporal correlations, repeated non-connectable operation. No conclusions are drawn regarding intent or coordination. The observation is recorded purely as a technical data point, demonstrating repeatable anomalies across time and locations. I then approached a bus stop. Several people were already there, and visually everything appeared completely ordinary and random. However, the BLE scans again show the same recurring pattern: non-connectable devices, zero advertising intervals, and a layered perimeter at approximately 10, 20, 40, 50, and 80 meters. I then boarded the bus. A teenager sat nearby, which visually appeared to be a standard and unremarkable situation. However, the BLE scans once again show the same recurring patterns: non-connectable devices and zero advertising intervals. The measured distance to the teenager, approximately 1.26 meters, directly corresponds to the distance indicated in the scans. This alignment between physical proximity and anomalous signal parameters raises questions as to whether this is coincidental or part of a recurring structured pattern. Another example occurred on the street on October 3rd, 2025. A woman walking with a child approached me, which again appeared to be an entirely ordinary situation. However, the BLE scans indicate otherwise. During the moment the woman and child passed near me, the scanner detected devices at approximately 3 meters and 14 meters, broadcasting with zero or near zero advertising intervals, reproducing the same recurring pattern. In this instance, some nearby devices were connectable, yet transmitting at prohibited intervals, while additional non-connectable devices were detected at approximately 2.83 meters, operating within nominal parameters, and another at around 35 meters, broadcasting with a zero interval. We now return to the View Terrace branch library, 12002 Osborne Street, View Terrace, CA 91342. The date is October 3rd, 2025 at 1:23 p.m. A mother with two children, one of them an infant, stood near me at an approximate distance of 3 to 4 meters. A small girl, around 4 years old, also remained close by. Visually, the situation appeared entirely normal. However, the BLE scanner again detected devices at the same 3 to 4 meter range that were non-connectable and broadcasting with zero advertising intervals. The mother remained in the area for an extended period, and the child lingered nearby, while the scanner continued to record anomalous non-connectable devices and zero-interval transmissions at multiple distances, including approximately 3, 10, 20, 50, and 70 meters. Additionally, the scans show that 2 or more devices share nearly identical advertising interval values in milliseconds, suggesting synchronized behavior rather than random civilian BLE activity. Continuing the observation, the mother remained in the area and appeared to persistently search for something while accompanied by her two children. At one point, the small girl stayed behind on her own, examining something nearby. During this entire period, the BLE scanner continued to record anomalies in close proximity, including non-connectable devices and zero advertising intervals, consistent with the same pattern observed earlier. Now we are at the Sylmar Branch Library, Fort 561 Polk Street, Sylmar, California 91342, on September 27, 2025. Once again, within distances of approximately 2, 5, 7, 10, and 20 meters, we record the same recurring patterns, zero advertising intervals and non-connectable devices. As you can see, across different locations, the same technical patterns continue to repeat. Now we are inside a subway car. August 31st, 2025, 3:12 p.m., North Hollywood. Once again, we observe the same patterns, non-connectable devices and zero advertising intervals. In the metro environment, these signals appear with maximum density. The scanner records a very tight network, which can be explained by the tunnel environment, where radio emissions are strongly reflected by the walls, combined with a high concentration of people. This produces an effect similar to what was observed inside the courthouse building, with dense, overlapping anomalous BLE activity.
Es donde uno tiene que hablarles ahorita porque es donde ellos aprenden más rápido. Es como me tomé las pastillas y me dio ayuda a desarrollar más
book out by the actress who plays the Wicked Witch in Wicked. Second part's coming out.
I can't remember her name, but I can remember.
Yeah. But she just wrote a book.
Cynthia.
Yeah. Okay, she has a new book out. And I would imagine, because I heard her interviewed her. So I would imagine there's been some reviews of it. There's some reviews of it, a couple of reviews. I would like to get those reviews of the book, if they're available.
Simply more?
Yeah.
Підходимо к завершальному контуру спостереження. Я вже піднімаюсь нагору, вже з пакетами трошки важко.
Now we are approaching the mountain. This is the final counter-perimeter observation, and packet analysis here is more difficult. I'm not sure whether the water is contaminated or not, so I proceed cautiously, in small doses, and observe the results.
Тому не виключаю, як в багатьох випадках раніше. Тому я одну бутилку випив і зараз буду дивитися на результат. Треба зрозуміти, що робити далі. Чи цю воду залишити на миття. Ось бачите, чоловік поставив машину поперек дороги. Не знаю, з якою ціллю.
At this moment, you can see a vehicle positioned across the road, effectively blocking my path.
Може це з якоюсь ціллю, не знаю.
The BLE scanner records the same recurring patterns as before, non-connectable devices and zero advertising intervals, detected at approximately the same distance as the vehicle obstructing the road.
Є non-connectable пристрій один, який вже показує такі параметри. Ось. Інших машин тут немає, я вже відійшов на метрів 20 від них. Ось і це був завершальний контур, який повинен забрати сьогодні останній мій паттерн поведінковий для їхнього ще й контролю, який вони зробили. Тому зараз я вже піднімаюсь нагору. Ось бачите, після того...
As soon as I passed, the vehicle began to move. At first, it appeared that its task was complete and that it was leaving.
Ось, і вже повертається на базу, так сказати. Намагається взяти ще пару паттернів.
However, instead of departing, the vehicle drove directly toward me and switched on its headlights, effectively blinding me. This may have been an attempt to provoke a reaction or to collect a final neural or behavioral pattern for analysis. At the exact moment of this visual provocation, the BLE scanner shows a non-connectable device at approximately 11 meters, periodically switching to zero advertising intervals. The temporal and spatial alignment between the vehicle's actions and the anomalous BLE activity is clearly visible in the scan data.
Ось бачите? Ну, типа, чувак стояв, так що дорогу перезаражав, а тепер, типа, став так, типа, фарами зараз світить. І ми бачимо...
As you can see, the vehicle initially stopped and blocked the road. Then it began shining its headlights directly at me. This behavior coincides in time with anomalous spikes recorded by the BLE scanner. The synchronization between the physical provocation and the abnormal BLE emissions indicates that this is not merely a technical anomaly. It demonstrates a coordinated provocation occurring simultaneously in the physical environment and in the radio spectrum.
Будуть вже ці всі 3 роки, що вони робили, вже...
They cannot cause me physical harm or eliminate me, because everything they have done over these 3 years would become meaningless.
Ось. Ну, взагалі, ця ситуація дуже повчальна.
You can see for yourselves that this vehicle could have stopped anywhere else. Why block the road? Why shine the headlights directly at me? Why all of this theatrics?
Ну, тобто, вона могла стати в іншому місці. Могла стати десь, наприклад, там, на тому ж, де
It could have stopped in a different place. It could have remained where it was. Why did it drive toward me and start blinding me with its headlights?
Це явний такий
And why were all of its devices
привід
non-connectable,
того, що
broadcasting with zero advertising intervals, or with intervals that are not
Що вони
characteristic
мають
of
до мене
standard
якусь справу.
civilian devices?
І ми бачимо, що у них прилади вже перепрошиті, змінені прошивки. Тому вони дають доповнюючий матеріал для своєї статті, точніше для нашої статті. Ось. А ми повертаємося в гори. Ми нікого не боїмось. Біля нас дикі тварини. І пантера, пума. Чи
And now we are
Mountain
heading
lion.
into the mountains, farther away from their radiation.
її називають
No one will
американці.
disturb me there. In the mountains, there is only wildlife around. Pumas, deer, foxes, coyotes, and the singing of beautiful birds. It is a good place to recover after yet another sortie and the repetition of everything that happens daily, day after day. The same patterns, the same provocations involving children, minors, and other civilians.
Оленів там багато.
Approaching San Fernando and Polk. Approaching San Fernando and Astoria. Approaching 12301 San Fernando.
now we are going to a church to visit friends. When I was there for the first time, they helped me and gave me food. However, those who were following me also went there. They brought a dog and began giving it commands, such as sit. According to my hypothesis, this was done symbolically, as if comparing me to a dog. This has been a familiar pattern for me over the past 3 years. Wherever possible, they bring a dog with them, show it through a car window, and when I am nearby, they give the dog commands. According to my technical hypothesis, when they came to the church for the first time, they may have compromised the devices of the staff. In effect, they may have placed the environment under monitoring by infecting devices inside the church. I apologize to you for the fact that, because of me, you may have been subjected to monitoring. I have great respect for you, for the wonderful people there, and for the beautiful songs inside your church.